Many of you are here today to listen to a talk about life purpose. But what I'd like to share with you is that this conversation is really about the lack of equity and inclusion in our society and the lack of access to life purpose. And I have a few points that I'd like to share, but I'll start them with the most basic question that I hear often on college campuses. What do you want to do with your life? I hear this question asked by lots of advisors and faculty and often parents who talk with their children, and usually around the Thanksgiving table, they ask them, what are you going to do with that major? What are you going to do with your life? I am on a mission to effectively ban this question from my college campus and hopefully from higher education. And I am on a mission today to help gather some followers and some supporters of this idea. So by the end of this talk, hopefully I will convince all of you that you will stop asking this question again. This is the question that I never want to get caught asking anyone in my life. There's another question that I think you know very well, and perhaps you ask yourself, what should I do with my life? I think this is the question that is keeping people from achieving their life purpose. In my 20 years of educating college students and helping them launch their careers, I've learned that there are two types of people. There are the box checkers who obsess about predicting their future. And then there are the risk takers, the inspiration seekers. They know that they cannot predict the future, but they can influence it by connecting with the right mentors and always by making audacious moves. And it turns out that the latter is the better way. You don't have to go far. Just look around at the people you know who have been successful in their lives and ask yourself, how did they make it? I tend to ask this question often, in fact. In my travels and in meetings and at conferences, this is my favorite question to ask. How did you achieve success? Guess what their most common response is? By accident. They tell me about their stories of luck, of chance events, and of relationships that made a difference in their lives. And usually, two themes emerge in most of their stories. There's usually a story about an audacious move that they made after a moment of inspiration that came to them during a drive home or after reading a book or when they woke up in the middle of the night and then they just could not stop and they just moved on to action. And then they often tell me about people, often about a person who took interest in them early on, a person who guided them, who mentored them, and a person who encouraged them to take risks and follow the uncertain path. You can probably think of people like this in your lives. I certainly can. I remember when I was an undergraduate student and I was working as a security guard in the third night shift and in my residence hall. And early on in the morning, I would often welcome the director of the department early in the morning, around 6:30, and he's usually the first person to come in. I never spoke with him. I would just greet him and say good morning. His name is Scott Peak. One day, he took interest in me. He just paused and wanted to ask me more questions beyond just good morning and how are you. He asked me about my studies, where I'm from, the things that interest me. And I realize now that he actually never asked, what do you want to do with your life or with your career? He just listened, and that first conversation led to many more. And later on, he actually offered me an internship in the department where I learned how to build budgets and financial projections. Over the years in that department, he offered me more leadership roles in the department. And from that moment, I started to become interested in the field of higher education. I think of another mentor like him later on at the University of Florida, Dr. Wayne Wallace, who always offered me opportunities that I initially rejected and I said no to because I didn't think I was interested in them or because I didn't think I was ready for them. And he always challenged me and said that this is your moment, take a chance, try something new. You see, my relationship with these mentors mattered a lot because they were during times of uncertainty and fear, but especially the one with Scott Peak as an undergraduate turned out to be the most consequential mentoring relationship in my career. The investment he made in me was especially meaningful because I was also an international student. I had limited English and resources and was trying to find my place in this new university culture. I was overwhelmed by everything, by the size of the institution, by the decisions in front of me. I was overwhelmed by the choices and opportunities that seemed so out of reach for someone like me. But I eventually made it, and I am now living my life purpose because I was willing to take risks, but especially because another person cared and made the decision to invest in my future. So I am really, really grateful for these types of relationships, and I know at this moment you are thinking of people who have opened the doors for you. But as I started looking into this area of the things that really matter in our life and in our success, and I started researching it further, I started asking myself one question. If life purpose can be achieved by acting on inspiration and by having the right mentor, then why isn't everyone doing it? Why do we not see everybody, and particularly in our systems of education, moving forward with this? And what I have realized after looking into this and after interviewing hundreds and thousands of individuals about this topic, I realized that it is not as easy as it sounds to follow inspiration with action. And I realized that mentoring is not as easy as it sounds like, and actually everyone can't be a mentor. So let me break this down a little bit with you. What I have found is that the trouble with inspiration is that it fades away as quickly as it comes to us. Think about it, the times when you were inspired. You were driving home, you were in the shower maybe, you had just woken up, or you were just on your way to pick up someone in your family. And usually you are inspired, but a few minutes later, maybe a few hours, maybe a couple of days, it fades away. Our daily tasks, our personal circumstances, our stressors get in the way. Life gets in the way. Turning inspiration into an audacious move requires a tremendous amount of focus and discipline. It requires comfort with risk and uncertainty. It requires belief in our ability and conviction in our ideas. You see, to be audacious, a move must scare us just a bit. It must challenge the norms around us. And then there is mentoring. The challenge that I have found with mentoring is that not everyone can be a mentor. I've learned in my career that mentors must have 3 traits to be effective. First, they must have expertise to teach us and guide us. We're already narrowing down the list of supporters who can be mentors. A lot of people can be supporters. Not everyone can be a mentor. They must have wisdom to offer us perspective and clarity. We narrowed it down even further. And the most important part is that they must have access to networks to connect us with opportunity. They must have access to networks. They must be connected. And now we've narrowed it down to just a few who can be mentors. And this is what leads me to the issue of equity and inclusion in our systems, in society, in companies, in organizations, and in our educational institutions. What is tragic is that the path to life purpose is not equitable to all. Privilege, and it turns out that privilege does play a role in the accidental moments of inspiration, who gets to be inspired and who doesn't. It does influence our access to mentors, and privilege does impact our ability to make audacious moves. When systems in our schools and organizations put the onus on the individual to seek mentoring and to seek out transformative experiences, we end up with a culture of haves and have-nots. And that's the unfair part. You see, in schools and colleges, for example, they invest a tremendous amount of resources in immersive experiences like study abroad and research and internships and volunteering, but they often are on the periphery of the learning experience for those students. Just pay attention to the college experience in general, or even the school experience, K through 12. The onus is on the student or their parent or their family to help them seek them out. This is a problem because these experiences are just simply too important for any student to miss. These are experiences that prepare students for the workforce, that expand students' networks and experiences and expertise. They connect them with mentors. These are the experiences that inspire students to make bold decisions and life-changing, audacious moves. And the tragedy is that every single day, students with less privilege miss out on them. The inequity that I want to highlight here is this. The few who fully take advantage of these experiences often happen to be privileged. They learn from a young age how to navigate complex systems, how to leverage resources. They know how to seek advice and support, and they are familiar with the culture and language of the university system. They are often reminded to sign up for optional activities by their helicopter parents. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate how prepared and supported these students are, but I worry about the other students who often miss out on the experiential learning and powerful mentoring we pretend to make available for all. I worry about the students who are first to go to college in their family and don't have anyone showing them how to succeed. I worry about the low-income student whose attention is on sending money to help her family, the undocumented student who's afraid of the prospect of deportation, and the student of color who's struggling to choose which part of his identity he needs to tone down in order to fit in. I worry that being inspired and making audacious moves is a privilege that many of these students miss because these experiences are just peripheral. So this is our moment in education. Schools and colleges can change all of this by making one audacious move. Make it part of every student's admission ticket to engage in immersive and transformative experiences and in mentoring. Design an educational system that fully integrates coursework, community, experience, and mentoring into your curriculum. This doesn't have to cost more. Just rebuild your programs to scale beyond the outdated transactional services that help the few. I want to be honest here with you about something. Many of the programs that you see in colleges and universities and schools today, they were structured and resourced to serve those who show up only, don't they? You and I know that if everyone showed up, we wouldn't be able to serve them all. How is this inclusive? But fortunately, we're starting to see some universities and colleges and schools who get it. I am proud to have joined just 7 months ago Johns Hopkins, a university that gets all of this and has prioritized achieving an equitable experience for all students. We are rethinking how students learn and achieve. We've established a new and inclusive model of integrative learning, a life design. We're building a college roadmap that integrates coursework, experience, community, and networks so that every single student has the same shot to succeed. And with the help of philanthropy, and most recently, Michael Bloomberg with $1.8 billion to support the university and our students, we are on our way to making education and life purpose accessible for all students, regardless of their background or social capital. You see, inclusion is not a soundbite, and equity is not an add-on. They should be baked into our culture from the beginning. If you want to have an inclusive and equitable pathway to life purpose, we must rethink our systems from the ground up. We in education must do more. Only when that happens will all students finally reconsider the purpose of education. It is not to get a job. That goes without saying. Of course we want them to get jobs, but that's the minimum expectation. If we do this right, students, all students, will finally realize the real reason they're in school. They happen to be in one of the biggest containers of inspiration in the world. They will approach education with all its resources and networks to create their life purpose regardless of their background or social capital. So my challenge to all of us today, and my challenge to every school and organization that truly wants to be inclusive, this is your moment. Make it possible for all your members to achieve their life purpose, not just the privileged few. Integrate mentoring and transformative experiences into your work. To every parent and mentor in the room or listening today, teacher or advisor who wants to help others plan their future, I am begging you, stop asking the question, what do you want to do with your life? What I give you instead is this. Ask them what has inspired them lately. And as you watch their face light up with joy and excitement, know that your job now is to support them. Encourage them to make an audacious move despite the uncertainty and risks involved. And to all of us here in the room and listening today, I am asking you, I am challenging you to stop contemplating the useless question, what should I do with my life? I promise you it won't help you. Look for inspiration instead. And if you are lacking inspiration, know that this is your moment to join a community, engage in an experience that aligns with your curiosity, ask someone with more knowledge, wisdom, and access to be your mentor. Pay attention to every moment of inspiration. And when that happens, that is your moment. That is your moment to make a bold decision and an audacious move that will change the rest of your life. And every time you feel the urge to change, and every time you feel the urge to have a plan, remember this. Life purpose cannot be predicted or planned. It is lured out of hiding with the help of mentors and the right mindset. So all of us here in the room and all of us listening, and all of us who are looking for life purpose, stop looking. You will need to create it. So get out there, follow your inspiration, and try something new. Accept the challenge and pass it on to others. This is your time, so I challenge you today, chase inspiration and make an audacious move. Thank you.